Good morning.
Good morning.
Isn't it good to be in the house of the Lord?
Amen.
Amen. Well, we've made it to the second Sunday in Lent. We're working up to that day when we celebrate Resurrection Day. You know, because we remember that every Sunday is a little Easter, right? We remember that because we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus when we come together and share in worship. So today, you know, we're going way back today. You know, how many of you remember Mr. Peabody and his way back machine? That just popped in my head. Way back, we're going way back to Genesis, the 15th chapter. And so we have this story of God talking to Abram. Now this is before God changed his name to Abraham. You know, so this was kind of a first encounter that Abraham really had with God. And so I titled this message today, Waiting on God is Hard Work. Waiting on God is hard work. And one of the reasons that waiting on God is so hard is because we've learned that we want everything now. You know, we've gone to the extreme of having instant things. You know, instant potatoes. Well, they're not quite instant, but, you know, not my favorite kind of potato. You can get stuffing in a box. Not my favorite stuffing. Yeah, Ginger makes some really good stuffing. Yeah, so why settle for that stuff in a box? Yeah. We have drive-up windows at fast food restaurants. We want everything now. And sometimes the answer is not now. I was in a meeting this past week that took a lot out of my sails. It was a difficult meeting. I'm the registrar for the District Committee on Ministry. We have to meet with all of the candidates going into ministry and all of the local pastors that are in the Franklin District. And there was a gentleman who was wanting to enter the process that we had to discontinue. That took a lot out of the whole group because, you know, we want what we want. Yep. And we want it now. And so one of my colleagues said to this individual, you know, sometimes God's answer is not now. Sometimes God's answer is maybe later. Sometimes the answer is a right out no. And we don't like hearing that. Because, you know, many times when we're praying for something, we've already decided what the outcome's going to be. And, you know, we just, as a kind of an aside, you know, we put it before God. And that's not always the best for us. You know, I've told you in the past that I had never intended, I never planned to be a pastor. That was not in my vision of where's Gary going to be when he's 63. God had other plans. Jim, when you were talking this morning to the children about getting straight A's on your report card, I never saw that. Yeah, I never saw. I didn't see many 100s on a test either. So those examples just not good for me. So, we often say that God has a sense of humor. And so here I am. I told Peggy this morning she was at the wrong church. She should be at St. Pat's. Love you, Peggy. And so, we've got this vision for the future. But Abram's here looking backwards. He's saying, I've got all this stuff. And I don't have anybody to give it to. I'm going to have to give it to some dude that lives in another land. He lives in Damascus. I'm going to have to do that. God said, now wait a minute. That's not my plan. My plan is that you're going to have a son. And you're going to have descendants, as many as the stars in the sky at night. Seeing the stars in the sky at night on a dark ship in the middle of the Pacific Ocean is much grander than looking up into the sky where there's ambient lighting. You can really see the stars. And as I stood on the bridge wing each night when we were out at sea, unless there was a storm, I would go out after evening prayer and just look at the magnificence of God. I never felt closer to God than I did in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. These are going to be your descendants, that many. Count them if you want. It's not going to work. Count them if you can. Now, we need to remember that Abram was not a young person. He was an old man. And Sarai, his wife, was old too. She was beyond childbirthing years. And so, that was like a head scratcher. You ever get one of those things that you had to scratch your head and say, what are you talking about? How is that possible? And in our eyes, some things just seem to be impossible. But you know what Scripture says, right? With God, nothing is impossible. And so God gave Abram this promise. And so he went home and shared it with his wife. He said, I had this chat today with God. I don't know if that's such a good lead-in statement. But it's like sitting at the dinner table, saying, honey, I've got something to tell you. You may not believe this, but I had this conversation with God today. And you know what he told me? He told me that we're going to have a child. and he was probably giggling when he said it. And then God told me that we were going to have as many descendants as there are the stars in the sky. And Sarah's probably thinking, yeah, right. Kind of before the day of alcohol and drugs. You know, yeah. What are you on? And so time went on. You know, I'm kind of confident that Abram thought that this was going to happen like tomorrow. Years went by, and still no child. Years went by. Waiting on God is hard work. So Sarah, or Sarai at the time, come up with this idea. I'm going to send you one of my maidservants. And that will be your descendant. Well, God wasn't so happy about that. And neither was Sarah afterwards. And so God said, nope. That's not the way it's going to work. Sarah is going to have a child. And eventually, she did. And then that descendant had children. And on down the line. So today, when we look at the stars in the sky, we can say, indeed, Abraham has that many descendants. And we're a part of that. We're a part of that because we have been adopted into the family of God. Let me say that again. We have been adopted into the family of God.
Amen.
Oh, that's better. You know, that's praiseworthy. That's praiseworthy because otherwise we have no future. Our future is death and nothing beyond. And so as we think about this whole process of being grafted into the tree of life, we become a part of the Old Testament teachings. You know, it kind of bothers me when someone says that we don't need the Old Testament anymore. It's irrelevant to us. No, it's truly relevant to us. Because we cannot understand the New Testament if we have no idea what the Old Testament says. Throughout the Gospels, you know, in those red letters that we talked about a week or so ago, Jesus quoted Scripture. And that Scripture was all Old Testament stuff. And so in order to understand who Jesus is, not was, is, we need to be aware of what the Old Testament says about the Messiah. Pardon me. Have you known anyone who might have said at one time or another, I've been praying for fill the blank for 10 years. And it's almost like, well, you'd think that would be answered by now. Why are you still praying for whatever's in the blank? And we pray that prayer because it's important to us. First of all, it's important to us. And secondly, God has heard that prayer. And it becomes hard work to wait on God. And sometimes the devil gets into it. It says to you, well, see how God works. And you begin to wonder. You wonder why it's so hard to be a follower of Jesus. Because the world out there invites us to so many things. So I'm going to defer to the verse that Jim talked to the kids about. Verse 6. Abram believed the Lord.
Amen.
And he credited to him as righteousness. Abram believed the Lord. And we are called to believe the Word of God.
Amen.
Not parts of it, the whole thing. Some people who call themselves followers of Jesus don't follow passages that they don't like. And it's like they tear those pages out of the Bible. So instead of having an H-O-L-Y Bible, you have an H-O-L-E-Y Bible. A Bible full of holes. Because, that's just not quite right. I don't agree with it, so, that makes it not so. Friends, this is the inspired Word of God.
Amen.
All of it. One of the benefits of following the lectionary is that it causes you to look at passages that you don't want to mess with. And so it's good discipline to look at those passages for a pastor. To look at those passages and see, there's 4 every week, that we have to choose from. When I was doing traditional worship, all 4 of those passages were read every week. We don't have time to do that. I get yelled at now for going 15 minutes over. But, you find the one that speaks to you. And then you build and build and build on that passage. And when I looked at this particular passage the middle of last month, what jumped out at me was, waiting on God is hard work. But it's rewarding work. God blesses us in so many ways. It's not just about the stuff that we pass down from generation to generation like Abram was concerned about. It's about relationship. It's about knowing what is right and what is wrong and living your life accordingly. Do we make mistakes? Oh yeah, we're good at it. We sometimes get it wrong. But the genius of our God is that He forgives. And brings us right back into that relationship. The scripture is full of stories about redemption. We're always brought back into the relationship of God. Somebody ought to be saying amen or hallelujah or, it's like, are you awake?
Yep.
Remember the day when we went like this?
Yeah.
2 stomps is amen. 3 stomps is hallelujah. Waiting on God is hard work.
Amen.
But it's real. And it's what we're called to do because we are God's people. Thanks be to God. Amen. Let us worship God in the giving of our gifts, tithes, and offerings.